beginning to our podcast this week. I'm your host, Sarah Watt. Welcome to this week's installment of Let's Talk Horses. And I'm so happy to welcome my special guest, someone who I've actually worked with very closely for quite a number of years, but she's here for the very first time on the podcast. Welcome, Emma. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's such a pleasure to be here, and I'm very, very excited.
Me too. And maybe actually before we start, do you want to just tell everyone a little bit about yourself? Like, whereabouts in the world do you live, and what do you like? What do you get up to? What's your lot in life? What do you love?
Okay. Well, I live in Tokyo, Japan, center of Tokyo, near the palace, and my work is a professional coach, and also I'm using a lot of tools like access tools and doing a lot of facilitation of the classes, such as Talk to the Animal class and 3-day body class and Right Riches class. And my everyday is actually like different every day. But what I love the most is like playing with my cats and, playing with my horses.
Amazing. And I think that's why one thing Emma didn't mention that she does as well is she's also a professional translator.
Yes.
She's one of these busy people that wears many, many hats. She also translates a lot for this amazing thing called Access Consciousness as well. So I kind of did a little switcheroo then, because usually the first question I ask my guests is, and I would like to ask you this now, is how did horses come into your life?
Oh, okay. Actually, first, like I met how did horses come into my life? When I was little, I lived in the US, and whenever I travel, there are always like horses who are like sightseeing and stuff. So I loved riding them. And also my parents sent me to summer camp. And so I was taking care of horses and riding them and loved them so much. And it was kind of like close to me. But coming back to Japan, like living in Tokyo, where they're all people-y, you never expect you see horses. So I thought, okay, so it became like kind of distant and forgot about it for a long, long time. Then I met Access and started to join these talk to the animal classes. And then I met a lot of people online, having horses, especially people outside Japan. And I was like, oh my God, they have horses, how nice, blah, 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 blah. And then, I was becoming talk to the animal facilitator, and I talked with my facilitator, Susie Ghazi, who is amazing talk to the animal facilitator. And I told her, like, in Tokyo, you don't really see horses. And, I know a lot of people who have cats and dogs. And she says, yeah. So, you're in Tokyo, so you can just facilitate people who have dogs and cats. And I was like, no, that's not what I want to do. So I want to engage more with bigger animals. So I made a demand, I made an ask to the universe. Okay, so how can I invite bigger animals into my life? And that's all I said. And next day I received the invitation from the credit card company saying invitation to ride horses. And I was like, wow, okay, where is it? And it was outside Tokyo, but then I looked at the website and they also had another branch in Tokyo. And I was like, oh my God, there is a horse club in Tokyo. I never thought there's one because of the space. But I found one, so I booked and I went. And and then, I was looking at the website and there were horses who were working there. And, they were come to meet us for the experimental sessions. And then I saw a horse called Fever. And this Fever's energy really pulled me. So I said to my husband, I'm going to ride Fever. And then he was looking at the website next to me. And he says okay, I'm going to ride this horse called Toyo. So I said, okay, great. So we went there and we didn't ask for these horses, but these two horses came out for us. And we're like, wow, it's the Fever and Toyo. So for the first time, in Japan, I touched the Fever and said hello, I'm Emma, nice to meet you. And then this energy that came into my body from Fever was so amazing. I don't know how to describe, but every cell in my body was jumping with joy. And I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. And I was so happy even before I ride Fever. I was just so happy with this engagement. And so I asked, how can I have this, like, in my life? And, fevers, they come and, see me and see us. So I just joined the horse club immediately. People didn't have to sell me anything. They were so surprised. Like, after the experimental sessions, I said, okay, I'll sign up. What can I pay? I joined. And they're like, you don't want to think about it? And I said, no, I don't have to think about anything. I just chose. So that's how it started. And now it's part of my life.
Wow.
I
And
write
so
them.
how often are you out riding?
I ride them 3 times or 4 times a week. And actually, it's quite a travel because it's 90 minutes from here. It's outskirts of Tokyo. But, when you travel, like, with this excitement and enthusiasm, it goes so fast. So I don't feel like I'm really traveling. And it's just so amazing.
So cool. And so is it still Fever that you ride 3 or 4 times a week? Do you ride other horses?
No, it's different horses. Fever is only for the experimental sessions. He's amazing sales horse.
He's the one that pulls everyone in. That's his capability and capacity. He's like, come and join us. Cool. And are there any other specific horses there that, like, really stand out for you right now that you've ridden or had some really cool experiences with?
Yes, there is a horse called Willie, and he's amazing, handsome horse, and I love him so much. And but he really chooses people, and also, like, as like, a lot of people label horses as, like, okay, this horse is, like, dangerous, or, like, it bites, but then it's all point of view that people put on horses, and they act out. And so the Willie was one of them. There was a sign saying, don't touch the horse, don't saddle the horse, we'll push, saddle them, blah, 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 so stay away, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I just went to the Willie, and he didn't have that kind of energy, like violent or anything. He had such a kind energy. So I talked to Willie and, like, and can I saddle you? And he gave me space and let me saddle him. But then when other people came, he goes like, don't touch me. He has different face. And so people are surprised, like, when I'm saddling him, like, is he Willie? Is he that Willie? And I said, yes, he's Willie. And he's such a kind horse, an amazing horse. And, I tell people, like, if you don't level the horse, like, of course, horses don't talk like we do. But, they communicate in a way, like, in an energetic way. If we don't receive that, they sometimes, use something stronger. Sometimes, like, biting could be one, because, they want to show the discomfort. We show the discomfort sometimes by yelling, doing stuff, but horses sometimes bite. But you have to just be aware, like, what they want to, how they want to be treated. So I do a lot of, I don't know if people who are listening understand pod and pocking.
But that's fine. I mean, we talk about it sometimes, but just go for it. Go nuts. Talk about everything.
I usually try to clear the energies that they have been putting on for a while, like, and then I try to put and poke clear all the energies, and then, like, have fresh relationship with them and ride every day. And that's something I really love to do.
Wow. Yeah, there's a tool in Access which really helped me a lot with horses. And I think, number one, destroying and uncreating your relationships every day, like having this really blank canvas to work with each day, because horses are different in every 10 seconds. And the other thing is the 10-second increment thing, right? Like, you see a horse and they're really the epitome of that 10-second increments of choice. Like, they're constantly looking for the next option, the next choice to make, the next possibility, or whatever's going to contribute something greater to their world and to their life.
I think it's interesting how people hold on to their point of view about things, like about people or about situation. Like, once they decide that it's like this, and they hold that on for a long, long time. But with animals, they choose different. If there is a space, they just choose something different every 10 seconds. And I think that's so amazing.
Wow. And when you approach the horses in there, because I mean, riding in a stable as well, like, it's a very different energy. But a lot of people, I think, look to have this option available. And I think stables are set up really for this very purpose, to have horses available for people to come and ride and interact with, that don't necessarily have the space or the time or the money to have horses of their own. So can you just talk a little bit about like what that's like for you being in a stable environment and what, I mean, you've brushed on it, but a little bit more detail about what you do differently when you approach the horses in that stable environment.
Oh, okay. So usually like at my horse club, like, there are like 180 horses, and
Wow.
then like, club members, I don't know, like 3,000, like, many people. So like,
Wow.
they have like many lessons and like, schedules all set up. So horses are quite busy with their with their classes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes, and people also, of course, like if they're riding, like they want to make sure that they prepare in advance and like, takes them to the lessons. So they're busy. And so what I do differently is like horses, like when they ride with us, that's the only time they come out from the stable, to ride. So
Yeah, right?
yes,
Yeah.
I want them to have, great time. So
Wow.
I don't rush them. Like, when I go and meet them and if they're eating, I ask them, is it okay for you to come out and like, prepared for the lesson? And if the horse said like I still want to have like 10 minutes to eat, and I said like I don't just pressure them. Okay, I said like I'll come back in 10 minutes time and then let you out, and then like then I take him to the place where I can saddle him. And then like I ask like, okay, can I saddle you immediately or do you need some food? And they usually love bananas, like so I said like let's share the bananas, and we share banana together. And then
Wow.
like yeah, I brush them and I saddle the horse. And also like when I, how do you say in English when you put the,
The
oh man,
bridle?
bridle? Yes, bridle. Also with when I do the bridle in Japan, like at this my horse club, some of the horses like they have like something like a cage so they don't bite. But
Wow.
yeah, so people are protected, so I also, you know, I'm okay with all these horses, so I do everything on my own. And so when I take off this cage, horse is so happy, so they don't want to be, set up everything like immediately. So I give them space, and then my horse is saying, okay, I want to bite some ropes, so like, I can just kind of like let my mouth relax, and I said, go ahead. So I give him space for 5 or 10 minutes. And I said, like, when you're ready, just let me know. And then after he's biting all the ropes and everything, like he comes down and I said, okay, you can do that for me now. I'm ready to be bridle and set it up. So I said, okay. So we just, play together and have a lot of space. So sometimes like people see me and they're like, oh my God, you're just letting the horse to do what they want to do. And then, they come to you. So I said, of course. Isn't that how we want to be treated? Like we don't want to be pushed around and say, okay, now it's the time, so let's do it. Like we hate that. So that's what I do
Wow.
with horses, and they just love it.
Wow. That is so cool. And so like, you're involved with access consciousness and you're also a talk to the animals facilitator. Like, can you just talk a little bit about where did you start to discover you had a very different point of view about horses, about animals in general? Like, is it like, what is
Mm,
that world for you of communicating with horses, with animals that's
mm.
different?
For me, like, since I was really small, like when I was visiting people's houses, like, relatives' houses, I always love to talk to the animals rather than people. So usually if there is a dog, I will just go to a dog instead of like relatives, and then just like, talk with them as much as I could, unless I'm pulled off and had to say hello to relatives. So that's who I was. And then like when I think about it, that's because like, relatives and like, people, like when I talk with adults, they always say things which are not really true. Like from kids' point of view, I'm like, why is this lady saying she's so happy to see me when she's not really happy to see me? She doesn't really care if she sees me or not, but she's just saying hello and being nice because I'm being brought here every vacation, blah blah blah. So you see all the lies in people, so you get so tired of talking with people. But with animals, they don't lie. If they don't want to talk to us, they just go away, right? So it's so simple. So yes, that's, I always love to talk to the animals rather than people. But I
Wow.
didn't know that, I thought that was normal. So, and I didn't think that was normal for everybody.
Uh-huh.
And so that's what I can say. And Yes, I always liked animals and plants. I love plants so much, and talking with plants, talking with animals. They how can I put it? It's just for us like an energy is a first and language, and energies don't lie, and that's what I love about talking with plants and animals. And
That's so cool.
they and also they're so modest. Like us like people, they want to prove something or show off something, but they're beautiful as they are, and they're not stopping themselves from showing themselves, but they're not like boasting or like showing off. And I love that about the animals.
They don't have anything at all to prove. There's no
Yeah.
proving in this world of like,
Uh-huh.
and you'll meet a horse that is very like elegant and they like
Oh
you to
yes.
see their
Uh-huh.
beauty, but they're not proving to you that they're
No.
beautiful. They don't have their
Uh-huh.
social media page where they post all. They don't care if they show up and they feel like shit one day or they're like, I'm cranky. They'll just be
Uh-huh.
like whatever that
Yeah,
is in the
and
moment.
when they're cranky, they're so cranky.
And
So
they don't
yes.
care. They're not like, oh no, I better not be cranky because I might offend someone. They're like, I don't care if I'm not having a good day or something. I feel a bit upset in my body or something's
Uh-huh.
going on with me. I'm just gonna let everyone know that that's how it is.
So the Willie, the horse I talked about, like he's a jumper, but when he finds somebody he not doesn't like, but not really good at balancing, he just tries that person and moves around. And then when the person fell, the lesson stops and he's happy. And when he when he does that, and these people don't like fall, he's like, okay, you can ride me. And then,
You passed the Willy test. Now
yeah.
you get to actually come and have a fun ride with me. Oh, that
It's
is
because
so amazing.
he runs quite fast. So like I think he wants to check before he runs, like if the person is capable.
Yeah, but that's cool because he obviously doesn't want to hurt the person. He's like, hey,
Yeah.
you're probably better to sort out if you can stay on me now while we're going
Yeah.
very slow before,
Yeah.
we're cantering around and doing jumps and then you come off.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So he does that before the lesson starts. And then like, when, but actually like there was one time he fell, but the person on the top didn't fall because like, Willie tried to land like as smoothly as possible. So he damaged his feet so badly, but he kind of protected the rider. So I thought that was so beautiful. And I felt so bad for Willie. He tested that guy and he passed, but he lost his balance, so Willie fell.
So is there anything particular, like, I think a lot of what's coming up through the vein of this conversation is that whether you're kind of really cognitively aware of it or not, a lot of how you approach animals and horses is from a space of question, like that space of like
Yes.
being willing to perceive and receive them as they are through just being like this. And, something as simple as like, hey, that's a question, right? Because it's like this invitation of like, hey, like, how are you today? What can I be for you today? What can I contribute? Is there anything in particular that you do when you go to the stables and you're about to ride? I mean, apart from the things you've talked about, are there particular questions or tools that you're using before you ride when you're interacting with the horses, or it's just something that's a bit more natural?
Well, I'd say it's a bit more natural. I always say like, hey, like, so how, did you guys sleep well? Like, is there anything you
That's what I
require
say to my
from
horses
me?
every morning. Have a good sleep.
Yes, like does your body require something? Anything like an energetic body processes. I ask all these questions. Yes.
Wow.
So,
Cool.
but things come, yeah, but always like questions, 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 and it comes naturally. Yes.
Yeah. Cool. And living in a city like Tokyo, I think the greater region of Tokyo has the same population as the whole of Australia, the country that I'm in. So it's a very big, I mean, I've been there many times and I just love it. As far as cities go, it's very ease. I mean, Japanese people are just so wonderful and the city is like immaculate. Living in a place like that, you mentioned like people can be quite tough at times with how they function from a space of like, projection and expectation and stuff like that. So what tools do you use, Emma, to make that more ease on you living in a city like that?
You mean for myself?
Yeah.
Well, I usually just lower my, well, what I can say is like before I learned like coaching and like, access consciousness, I used to have a lot of walls and barriers up. So I don't have to perceive all these like, people-y energies. But now what I do is completely opposite. I lower my walls and barriers. And then sometimes like I have to be on the crowded train to go to the horse club because it's commuting hours. What I do is like I just expand my energies outside the, whole train and like to the universe. And I encourage everybody, but then by expanding myself, I don't get affected by it. And that's how it helps. So I'm always expanded, and so I don't feel like I'm stuck in this like congested city.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. And, you're a coach of people. You coach people, I'm sure, through many different things, like to do with their business, their relationship, but you also coach people with their animals. So what is I feel like this is a bit of a loaded question, but what is your favorite type of facilitation what's your favorite type of facilitating and coaching to contribute?
Wow, it's it's a big question. Well, I always love to like do coaching on the things that really changes people's like life, especially like changes people's like point of view about things.
Cool.
And yesterday I was doing some like sessions with a lady who has an animal, and how can I put it? She's very successful, and but she had like 2 or 3 like dogs in the past, but she only lived with them with like 2 months or 3 years, and she get rid of them and give to her parents, and now she has this like cat, and she loves the cat, but like things are not going well because like she pees on the certain things, so she was not happy about things, but of course she's not thinking about getting rid of it, but she always thought like she has to control but not engaging. So
Yeah.
I was able to give her some sessions, and then she now knows like okay, she wanted to make living room so cool, so she didn't want to have the cat's toilet, but she find out the cats want to have toilet in the living room and bedroom, so she
Yep.
put that there, and then like everything became so peaceful. So this
Wow.
is like this seems like so small, but it's
Yeah.
kind of like essential for the animal, and also actually it's really contributory for the owner as well, because the cat don't pee around the house anymore.
Yeah.
So small things, but it's very big thing in life, right? In
Totally.
our daily life. So I love
Totally.
these kind of like sessions where people just see things from different point of view, not from only people's point of view.
Wow. I love that so much. And one of the things that I love about working with animals as
Mm-hmm.
like almost like a co-facilitator, like they're kind of there helping, like whether it's a talk to the animals setting where it's a dog or a cat in the house, or you're doing like a horse class where you have horses. It's so interesting where people are willing, exactly like you said, to change their point of view about how they see the animal. It's like every part of their world then
Mm-hmm.
starts to change. Like just exactly like you said, it's this small thing, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
about this lady's cat going to the toilet in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
And where actually what you get to with that is her issues or problems, whatever, with control. Like where,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
then you get to explore what other parts of your life is this actually a limitation for you rather than being a
Yes.
contribution, and how much
Mm-hmm.
our animals really just want to show us that. Like they're just like,
Yeah.
hey, if I can just show you, if you could get over your control a little bit, your life is actually going to be like a whole lot more fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And
I know,
so
it's
I
such an invitation. Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's like we have animals in our lives because of the joy that they bring for us. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
that, yeah. And then when we have these little things that are showing up, how often we don't deal with that situation, but how
Mm-hmm.
often it's a reflection of our whole life. Like how many little
Yes.
things out there do people have going on in their lives that they're not willing to address
Mm-hmm.
because they're little things. Oh, don't worry, I'll just deal with it, blah, blah, blah. And
Mm-hmm.
if they were willing to actually look at it and put some energy on it, it would change
Mm-hmm.
everything for them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, very
Mm-hmm.
cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. And I just want to ask you one last question about sort of in that in that realm, what is something that horses have taught you, like whether it's been when you're with them riding or whether it's been, you know, just during the saddling and being with them process? What have they shown you that you've been able to adapt into your life and actually that it's contributed to every part of your life, not just in those moments that you're there with your horses?
Well, I learned actually like a lot of things I learned from horses. Like I can apply everything like with my facilitation and coaching sessions. But one of the things is like, you know, leadership. And one time, like when I was like beginner's rider, I fell from the horse. And then like I hit my head and I was taken to the hospital by ambulance because I hit my head pretty badly. And at that time I was beginner rider, so I was holding onto the leash. And you know, and then like there were like the instructor was very inexperienced, so he was looking at the other two like old ladies and the girl who was elementary school kid, so like he wasn't really looking at me when horse was surprised with something, and so I fell. So and my husband was like, you know, Emma, horseback riding is very dangerous. Maybe it's time for you to stop because like, you know, it's dangerous sports. So I said, no. It's not the horse's fault or anything. I wasn't holding onto the leash and I should have, because, you know, horses could be surprised with anything. I learned, you know, I really need to control and like have to hold on to the leash and make sure that I won't fall. And it applies for everything. You know, when you're facilitating the classes or coaching sessions, like, you know, you don't want to get the class go wild. You want to make sure that you're holding the, you know, leash and, you know, you're in control of it. And that's something I really learned from like by falling from a horse.
Wow.
There are other things I learned, but this is something like I learned with my body, like, you know, by falling from the horse. And also at that time, like I was doing like a lot of like hosting and facilitations, and I wanted to be in control of everything, like every detail. So I felt like I have to do everything by myself and make sure that these classes become successful. And by falling from the horse, I could not move my body for a while. So I had to ask for help from other people. Like I said, like, you know, can you please help? Because, you know, I'm not able to do this. You know, I can apply to this place. Can you do it for me? So I learned to ask, you know, people for help, which I wasn't really good at that time. So horse, you know, forced me to do that. So that was also something, you know, which was amazing, you know.
Yeah. And that's so cool from that one experience, and how often people have a fall from a horse and make it into this really negative space of like kind of where your husband went. But I get it too, that people just want to obviously take care of us and protect us. And that was his way of being like, he obviously didn't want to see you fall from the horse. But for you then to have those questions in your world and being willing to look at things, and also just like what that story highlighted for me was the different types of control there are available. So obviously when you're sitting on a horse, there's a level of control that you need to have to control the situation into something greater. It's like you can't throw the reins away and let the horse do whatever they want, because it's going to not only be dangerous to you, it's going to be dangerous to them as well when you're sitting on top of this animal. And then you've got the control that you do to kind of limit things and try and make sure everything's okay. So it's really cool also seeing that so clearly in that moment, the difference between I'm going to have control with this animal, not of this animal, but with them to create something greater. And then seeing also where we control things to try and make sure everything's going to be okay. But in the end, it ends up sort of creating this limitation. So, yeah.
But when I fell from the horse, I saw the expression of the horse saying, oh, I didn't mean that.
They're always like, oops, what are you doing down there? Down there. What happened? Oh, they are such magnificent creatures. Like really, the more we are willing to ask and be with them, the more they're willing to give us. And it's just every day my horses blow me away with just the smallest things that the more I step into being more of me, the more they're like, oh, now I can come and play in this new arena of possibilities, which is so exciting. Yeah. Cool.
There's no limit.
Exactly. Oh my God. There is absolutely no limit when it comes to what horses, but what all animals and nature is willing to show us. We think we're like this dominant species on the planet, but it's like sometimes I feel like we're the toddlers, and there's a lot of things around us that we can be learning a hell of a lot from. So
yes, exactly.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being on my podcast. I mean, 30 minutes just flew past. I would love to have you on as a guest again sometime in the future. This conversation has been so joyful, and I really have enjoyed, Emma, hearing your perspective on horses and animals and just how they've such a huge part of your life, and it makes me so happy to know that. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Sarah. It was such a pleasure to be here. And let's have amazing time with animals.
And we'll post some links on where you can find Emma, because she has some amazing stories on her social media. As she said, she also offers coaching sessions. She can work with you and your animals if you're having some issues going on there. You offer online, online and live. So yeah, I'd love to put as many people in contact. And obviously, you don't need to speak Japanese, because she speaks beautiful English as well. Thank you again, Emma. Thank you for being my guest. It's been most enjoyable. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sarah.
Bye. Bye.